welcome to episode 61 of the YarnderWoman podcast. My name is Melinda. You can find me as YarnderWoman on Instagram and Ravelry. And we also have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which you can search in the groups tab on Ravelry under YarnderWoman podcast. So today is Monday, the 22nd of May 2017, and as always, I'm coming to you from Perth in Western Australia. How are you? I hope you've been really well. It's been 3 weeks since I last recorded. I was actually really quite ill last week and a half. Both myself and Sophie, the under teen, have been quite under the weather. And Damien, my partner, as well, not quite as much, but yes, it was a house of germs, which was lovely. The worst part was that for like a couple of days, I was too sick to knit. What is the point of being sick if you can't knit, I ask you? So that was, disturbing. But that's okay, I'm quite recovered now, and definitely back knitting, as you'll see when I go through some of my whips and finished objects for you. Grab a drink. I hope you've got something lovely that you're doing. I know some people like Twee watch during their commute. Hope you've also got a drink, Twee. Grab a drink. I've got some Earl Grey tea in my Kyoto mug from Starbucks. I may have mentioned before, I've got a Starbucks mug from every main city that I went to when I lived in Japan. And because we are planning a holiday to Japan later in the year, I'm getting extra excited to be using these because I recall the memories and think about what we're going to be doing. So anyway, grab your beverage and let's move on and broach the subject. So this little lovely was very kindly sent to me by the lovely Sarah Pomegranate, who has the Yarns Are In Her podcast and is also a knitwear designer. So Sarah saw this in a museum gift shop and thought of me, and I believe it was actually designed by an Australian maker, so it all ties in very nicely. Now, what also ties in nicely, do you like all my segues here, is that I wanted to talk to you about the Pal Cow, the podcast along Knit Along, that Michelle of the Actually Knitting podcast is hosting. If you're not aware of this, I'll put a link to Michelle's group because it'll have all the specific details, but essentially it runs across the 3 months of Northern Hemisphere summer, Southern Hemisphere winter, and you are to knit with yarn by someone who has a podcast, or use a pattern by someone who has a podcast, bags, stitch markers, all that sort of thing. So it's about supporting podcasters. So as I mentioned, Sarah, who gave me this lovely brooch, is also a designer. So if you used any of her designs, they would be included. And I'll also show you what I'm wearing because that ties into the podcast along as well. So this is the Narita Express shawl. I'm just making sure I show you the front. Let me just lean back a bit. So this gorgeousness. So this is designed by Marsha Ibuki, who is Marsha Fairy Little from the Fairy Little podcast. So yet another podcast along possibility. And this also ties in nicely to my aforementioned Japan trip because this was designed by Marsha when she was in Japan. So the Narita Express is the train line that runs from the airport into Tokyo City. So this is a great pattern. I really want to knit another one of these, but just haven't, got to it in my queue yet. I've just got so many other things on the go. This yarn is Query Fibre, and I believe the colourway was Queen of Hearts. And it's lovely. It's this sort of real orangey toned red. It's looking quite orange in comparison to my red wool, but it's not orange as such in real life. And then it's got the white and purple, which I think is just very fun. And I might actually put it on like this because it's a little bit cold today. Winter has definitely arrived here in Perth. Isn't it funny when the seasons change, we sort of forget what the weather is usually like at that time of year? Like something like it's so cold and rainy and winter. Well, it's not officially winter yet, but it will be next week, 1st of June. Now I think I may have mentioned this before, but I know some other podcasters have. It was Jill and Michelle on Scandinavian podcast. We're talking about how in America at least, possibly North America, but at least the US, seasons start on like the 20th of June for summer or something. Whereas here in Australia, we just say 1st of June. So it's June, July, August is summer. So anyway, so yes, in either example, it is not officially winter here yet, but it's very cold and rainy, so I'm getting a lot of use out of my knitwear and I'm really enjoying that. And so you can use things from any podcast. As I said, I put all the links because it's not my cow, so the rules are on Michelle's pages, so go there to find out the specifics. But she's also got threads for the various prizes that are available from differing levels of sponsors. And I am sponsoring a prize, so I'm giving a Ravelry download, and we've also got a prize donated by DKS Art and Design, which is Damien, my partner's company. And the main part of the prize is the Studio Ghibli inspired knitting no-face character from the movie Spirited Away. So here's a photo of the prize pack here. So yeah, thank you to Michelle for organising it. It seems like quite a bit of work for that long podcast knit along, but it sounds like it's going to be really fun. In the meantime, let's go on and look at some finished objects. So I've got a few finished objects, and YarnderWoman is the biggest winner in the finished object prize pool, as it were, because it's her birthday coming up on the 1st of June, and I've been busily knitting away to make her a little set. Now, I think I showed in acquisitions a couple of months ago, I got a skein from Circus Tonic Handmade, a great Australian hand dyer, in the colourway Blue Budgie. Now, YarnderWoman has had a turquoise blue budgie named Spot for maybe not quite a year, I can't remember exactly, but something like that. And on Mother's Day, I actually took her to the pet shop because we wanted to get a bigger cage for Spot because the one he was in wasn't quite big enough. And I thought, while we were there, let's get a second budgie. So now we have Cloud the budgie, who is more of a sky blue. So here's a photo of them both here, if you didn't see it on Instagram. So yes, YarnderWoman is very happy with her little family. And so the colourway Blue Budgie from Circus Tonic was even more appropriate. So here it is, knit up into, can you guess, the Knit Night shawl. If you are new to the podcast, welcome, hello to everyone. But if you're new to the podcast, you may not know, I have knit quite a few of the Knit Night shawl patterns. It's sort of my go-to, and I decided that this would be particularly appropriate because earlier in the year I knit a knit night for my two aunties, YarnderWoman sisters, so I thought YarnderWoman needed one of her own so that the three of them have the same style. And here it is here. It's quite long. So that's the middle here. That's as deep as it goes. So quite long, lovely drape. It's come out so soft. I think it's ever so slightly damp because, as I said, it's been very cold and wet here, so I don't think things are drying very quickly. But very happy. It's just so light, and I love the little black flecks that are throughout it. It's really pretty. So it's got the blue and the white. It's got some yellow for the beak, and then the little black flecks for the black flecks that can be on budgies. So that was that part. So I just sort of kept knitting until I thought it was big enough. I didn't have any specific plans. But then what I did with the rest of it was knit some socks. Now I didn't have enough to do a whole sock, but here we go, 1 and 2. Aren't they pretty? I'm so happy with these. So I started, I've got this is the Blue Budgie colourway here. So I wish, it's funny because, I'm really happy with the size of this, but I wish I'd had more left to do a longer leg on the socks, but, whatever. So I did a 2x2 rib. So I didn't really follow a pattern except for the Fish Lips Kiss heel, but when I say follow a pattern, I've got it memorised now. But so I just cast on normal number of stitches that I would do for YarnderWoman. This heel here is in the Knit Picks. Oh, I don't have the tag, but it's just the Knit Picks Stroll that's coming out so fluorescent. It's not that bright. Is that coming out? Yeah. It's not fluorescent yellow. It's called Dandelion, so that's quite an appropriate colour. So use that, and I thought that picks up the yellow really nicely, so I thought that was a bit of fun. And then this one at the bottom here is another Knit Picks. This is the Stroll Tweed in the North Pole Heather colourway, and I think, if I do say so myself, it was a really good match because you've got the black flecks in the Circus Tonic Blue Budgie, And then you've got the flecks of the tweed, and I think the blue went really, really nicely. And then I did decide to do the yellow toe. Now, I'm not hugely happy with it being yellow, like it obviously ties in with the heel, but I really like the blue to blue. But I'm not going to rip it out because I don't think it looks terrible. I just think, you know, in hindsight, I would have preferred just a blue toe, but I think Yarnder Mum will love it. And so, yeah, I'm really happy with how they turned out. I'm so happy to have a set. It's just quite fun to be able to give matching things. And I'm showing these to you on the sock blockers that was so kindly given to me by Lumigraphica. There we go, over here. And you'll notice that Yarnder Mum's foot is a little bit longer than mine, so they're a little bit, these socks are a little bit big for the sock blocker. So Lumigraphica are one of our sponsors for our sock knit along that we're doing, so I'll talk more about these later, but I just wanted to let you know that's why it's a bit wobbly. It's just that the sock is longer than the sock blocker is intended to be. The other thing I finished is the Little Boxy by Joji Locatelli. I'm so happy to have that off the needles. I don't have it to physically show you, but here is a photo. That only went onto the blocking mat last night, so it's still very, very wet, so I don't want to pick it up and, you know, move it around. So I will show you more of that in the next episode because I intend to do some filming when I give it to Yarndenice, who is the recipient. My only concern is when I finished the arms, they were quite narrow because it's a child's jumper. But Yarndenice is quite slender, so I was knitting the 6-year-old size and she's 9. But because it's such a boxy big jumper, it's not going to make too much difference. But then I realised as I did the arms that I've done the 6-year-old arm size and I hadn't measured the circumference of Yarndenice's arms. But I'm hoping it'll be okay because she is quite slender. But what I've done is I haven't fully woven in the ends on the end of each arm. So if they're too tight, I will just rip out the arms. I won't be happy about that, but it will be fine. Because I always thought the arms would go really quickly, but maybe because they're such a small circumference, I was doing the magic loop, you know, you're sort of going along and then suddenly having to, anyway. I always think it's going to be quicker than it is, so that's my thing. But anyway, so very excited to have that off the needles because I used all but, I think I had 7 grams of yarn left out of 200 grams. And of course for a young girl, that's quite a lot of yarn because it's so boxy. But I think it's going to look awesome on her. And I'm looking forward to being able to show you when it's dry and I can actually show you. So works in progress. I've got a few things going, but there's a bit of a colour scheme as you'll see in a moment. So first off is some more socks. So these are Invictus yarns. I don't have the tag with me, it must be in my other project bag because I've split the cake into 2 and I haven't started the second one, so I don't have the other bag with me. The bag this one is living in is by a homespun house and it's very cute. Got the little girls playing skipping. And as I said, Invictus yarns, it's their BFL base, so I believe it's 75% BFL, 25% nylon. It's very toothy, so I think it's going to be quite hard wearing. I hope it's not too toothy for the Yarnder teen, because that is who these are for her birthday coming up at the end of June. Not much to report. I've just done, it's her 17th birthday, so I did 17 rows of ribbing, 2x2 ribbing. Then I am just going round and round. That looks sort of black, but it's actually quite deep purple, so it's a totally purple. Would that be tonal or semi-solid? Whichever description suits this, that's what it is. So it's all purples, it's not black. Just very, very deep purple, but I think she's going to really like that. She's really having a purple phase at the moment. She's always liked purple, but it's becoming quite her thing. So hence when she saw this project, she thought, oh, that's really nice. And I said, well, it's not for you. And she goes, oh, I know, you wouldn't knit it in front of me. I said, exactly. But this is another birthday present. I don't believe the recipient watches the podcast, but if you like purple and are turning 40 in a month, look away now. Here we go. So, oh, I love this. So what I'm getting here is the Tailor as Old as Time cowl. That is a pattern by Annie of Little Skein, and it, let me have a look, see if I can show you a picture. Here it is here. Tailor as Old as Time by Anne Valley. So yes, it's a very long cowl, and you can see here it's been done in self-striping, and it's hard to tell because I've printed in black and white, but there's two different colourways there. So Anne got together with Stacey of Moustache Yarns to make a kit, and there were two different colourways of moustache yarns. You do one whole side and one whole side. So what I decided to do, because I was using my stash and I know the recipient loves purple, so I've got lots of these balls of Knit Picks Felici. So it's the Countess colourway, so lots of lovely purples there. And then what I'm going to do is have one side with those stripes, and then the other side I'm going to have with this beauty. This is another Knit Picks. It's Pansy Tonal Stroll Fingering. So it'll be, there are ends everywhere. Stripes on one side, tonal purple on the other. I think it's going to look gorgeous. Again, that's showing up like there's black in it. It's just a deep purple. So both, I think, yeah, the Felici and the Stroll base are pretty similar. Very, very soft. So I think that's going to be lovely. Great pattern, the Tailor as Old as Time cowl. You know, knitting a cowl, you just, you know, perhaps do a provisional cast on, join everything together. There's a slight variation in this, which I won't give away because obviously it's a paid pattern. But you can see here, the cowl end has been sealed up. Aha! But there are still live stitches at the end, so it will join together come the end. So I've got a little while to go on that because I think the pattern calls for 1,000 yards, 500 of each of the two yarns. But because one whole side can only be as much as I have here, what's this, 462 yards, so it's not going to be too much shorter. But I have more than enough of the Knit Picks Felici because I have 3 balls of this and they're 218, so yeah, I'd have way more than I need of this. So I've actually made myself a note on the pattern to start measuring when I get towards the end of the second ball because I need to be able to match up to this. So that's going to be a lovely pattern, very straightforward, just round and round and round. I guess once it gets a bit longer, it'll be a bit heavier and perhaps won't be a take out of the house project, but for now it can be. I love on the Felici how in these lighter bands there's little flecks of other colours. I really like how they've done that to make it look a little bit more, So yes, having a lot of fun with that. This project is living in the bag that was so kindly made for me by Julia, who is 9crafty11 on Instagram and Ravelry. I've mentioned before, Julia doesn't have an Etsy shop, but she is happy to take custom orders. So if you would like, I'm not suggesting she has this fabric anymore, but she's a very good bag maker. So check her out if you're interested. My next work in progress, I didn't show you the bag last time. So this is a lovely bag. And that was made by Friday Studios, who I don't believe is in business anymore, unfortunately, but love polka dots, black and red, and chickens. All works out well. So within that is this pair of lovely socks. So you saw, I think this one was partway through the last time. So this is yarn by Rose Hip Island on Etsy, who's an Australian dyer, and this was dyed just for me, which is so lovely, in all my colours. And I am just shy of being ready to put in the heel. So I've got the stripes matching, they're looking gorgeous. And the only reason these haven't progressed is because I've been working on the socks for the YarnderTeen and the cowl for like the other birthday present I need to knit, because those have a bit of a deadline. So these, unfortunately, are just on hold for the moment, but I'll get back to them as soon as I can. I also need to start knitting the, what was it called? Amagansett dress that I'm going to be knitting for the YarnderTeen's birthday as well. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking that's quite a big project and I don't have much time to do it in, but hey, whatever, it'll get done, won't it? I seriously do consider that it may not be finished in time for her birthday, but I think she'll be okay with that. we'll see. But anyway, I will do my best. But another birthday present I've kind of finished, but the knitting isn't quite finished, but I'm calling it finished, is a pair of socks for Damien. So his birthday is coming up at the beginning of June. And these are the socks. I've got them on one needle, so, well, they're on 2 needles, but they're both on together. So that's them there. The yarn is Modavira Noir. That's from what in North America you'd call a big box store, Spotlight over here. It's just a big craft and homeware sort of store. Sort of like Noro in that it's self-patterning. So again, nice and toothy. I think that'll wear really well, and I really like how the patterns turned out. Fish Lips Kiss Heel, that's the only pattern I followed. The rest is just go, go, go. At the beginning, I did 2x2 rib. Then for a little while, I did a 6x2 rib because I was thinking I was going to do that down the whole foot. Decided against that. After a little while, I was like, no, I just want to go round and round. So there's just a nice little additional rib for the beginning. Now, the reason it's not finished is because I do have a cardboard cutout of Damien's foot, which is because in the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern, it shows you how to do that to work out where a heel should go. And so I've used that before in a different pair of socks. But because I now like to do the rounded toe from the Skedaddle pattern by Lena Gerald. I was going to talk about this later, but Lena's podcast, A Wee Bit Nitty, is back. She had not been recording for a while, but now she's back. So go and check that out. I'll definitely put a link because it's very exciting. And with Lena being a designer as well, that would also count for the Pow Cow if you do any of her patterns. So back to this. The reason I wasn't quite sure about the length on the cardboard foot is because it's a different toe than what I've used previously on Damien's socks. So the cardboard cutout fit in here fine, but I've decided not to sew up the toe just in case. And then on this one, I decided not to even do the toe just in case, because I could, go and say to Damien, shut your eyes, I'm trying something on you, and put it on his foot, but then he'll know the socks. So I figure he's not going to be absolutely devastated if the socks are not ready to go as immediately as he opens them on his birthday. So I figure I will not finish them off because I will just make sure that they fit okay. And if they don't, I can easily rip out, and these I don't have to rip out because that's it. I was going to knit both of them, and I thought, well, there's no point in that if it's not going to fit. If it does fit perfectly, shame this toe isn't done, but I can do that very quickly on the day and it will all be fine. Bags, I've had 2 bags going because I've had the 2 socks going. One is this lovely teapot one, and that is by Bling Your String. And this one, again, I was spoiled. Lovely Denise made me this one with all Seattle things on it. So that's very lovely. So that's what I'm working on. As I said, I'm going to have to get that dress started soon, but I'll show you the yarn that finally arrived for it. See, I have no excuses now because the yarn is here. Actually, I haven't even swatched yet, so I'm not even sure if I have the right needles, and I might have to order those online. I should get on with that, shouldn't I? But let's get on with something else on the podcast first. So we have a sock cowl knit along going for all of May. There's not a separate finished object chatter thread, it's just all one together. So go in there, comment on people's projects, put in your progress shots, your finished object shots, everything can go in there. The more you post, the better chances you have at winning, so go ahead. All the rules are in there, but essentially as long as you had only done 1 sock of a pair before the 1st of May, you can enter a work in progress in. Otherwise, feel free to cast on many, many things and go forth and sock knit. We have some lovely prizes. Claire Devine has donated for us one of her ebooks and then 2 single patterns. We also have a pair of the Lumigraphica sock blockers that I showed you earlier. And the way that will work is the winner will get in touch with, Lumigraphica will get in touch with the winner, and you can work out what perfect size you would like for your blockers so that it's not like a generic pair, you'll get one specifically for you. And we also have a lovely sock blank from Gail's Art that was donated to us by a viewer, and she was a winner of a prize drawing that we held, I think, last November. And it was so lovely, she wanted to pay it forward and had this Gail's Art sock blank to donate. So that is also a prize for the sock house. So there is still plenty of time to enter. So get sock knitting, get posting in thread, and see how you go. We also have a giveaway for the Little Miss Chelsea Bean shawl pattern by the lovely Jen Sheelan. So go and enter there. That will be open until the end of the month-ish. I haven't put a specific date. Essentially, if the thread is open, go and put an entry in. 1 entry per person. You must be a member of the YarnderWoman group to be eligible. If you go and have a look, let me just check the number. Episode 28 of the Jen Sheelan podcast. She's showing quite a few of her reknit Chelsea Bean patterns, as in she's done them in different yarns. So go and have a look at her podcast as well. And yes, you guessed it, Power Cow possibilities as well. So I will probably draw that next episode. So you will have plenty of time to buy your own copy if you're not a lucky winner. And that would be something you may want to knit for the Power Cow. So these are the colours that I will be doing the Yarnder Teens dress in. Now, as I'm looking at it, I'm actually not too happy with the contrasting. So the yarn that I'm going to be using is Knit Picks Shine Worsted, and this is 60% Pima Cotton, 40% Modal, which is a fibre made from beechwood, I think. And I had this black and this colour called Serenade. I had these two in my stash and I thought, yes, they're going to be perfect. So the reason I wanted to use a cotton or a lighter fibre blend is because, yes, it gets cold here in Perth, but it doesn't get so cold as many other places. So I didn't want to knit a dress in worsted that was going to be way too warm. So it's a short sleeve dress. You can wear it. It's a dress. It's not just a tunic, but she likes to wear things over jeans, and actually the style photo from the pattern actually has the person wearing it over jeans, so it works out perfectly. So I had these two already, but you need a third contrast colour. And so I ordered this one, which is the one that's just come, that I talked about earlier, the Iris. Yeah, I'm not sure that they go now though, because that looks almost blue in comparison. Like, it still looks purple, but you know what I mean, it's bringing out the blue in it. So I'm not sure. I do have some red in this as well, so I'm wondering if red will be better. I know Yarnder Teen did want all purples, but I'm just not sure about that. Anyway, I will ponder that further, and hopefully next time I will have a cast on project for you and can show you. I've been very spoilt with patterns this week, so the lovely Claire Devine, who is already donating some prizes for our sock cow, very kindly sent me her latest collection called From Dorset with Love, and each week a different pattern is released as part of the collection, so it's really lovely. So I'll put the link in. Claire talks about how when she was in Dorset it just was so inspiring for her, so a lot of the designs, all of the designs are inspired by her time there in Dorset in the UK. Have a look. It's quite exciting when you see, you have an update and there's a new pattern there. It's great. Another pattern I was so very generously given was Mountain Air, and that was by Quilter Caroline, who goes under Clothesline Designs. Caroline has been very generous in the same way as Claire has. She's given us podcast prizes before, and she's also offered a copy of this pattern as a prize. I'm going to make myself another cup of tea when I turn off to do this next segment. Now, let me just look down as I read, because as well as having a copy as a future prize giveaway, Caroline is also offering some discounts just in general. You don't need a code. So she's got Mountain Air and Mountain Path, so you can either buy them separately or together. And at the moment, they'll either be £3 or £5 for two. But until the end of June, individual ones will be £2.50, which is about $3.25 American. Or both together will be £4, which is about $5.20 in US dollars. So I'll put all the links to that, so go and check it out if you'd like. I will try and show a picture here, but I'm not sure if it will come out. There we go, that's the Mountain Air. It's not great, but obviously there will be proper links in the show notes and the page, and that's the Mountain Path. So thank you very much, Caroline, for those, and definitely go and check them out. Caroline's a great designer and you can get a bit of a discount. Now, the most special acquisitions I got was my Mother's Day present. So it was Mother's Day here in Australia, not the weekend just gone, the one before. I understand it was also in America, but I think the UK had it earlier, so I'm not sure about other countries. First of all, if you celebrated Mother's Day, I hope you had a lovely day. And I also really want to say, if Mother's Day is not a happy day for you, I hope you are okay, because I realise special days like that can be problematic and sad depending on your circumstances. So Sophie is my stepdaughter, so she visited her other family in the morning, but when she got home, she had some special presents for me. And here's the first one. There we go. She made this dragon, and it's knitting. And not only that, she made two. I'm just trying to get them up. Here's the second one. And I knew there was something knitting happening because she's been making these dragons. And, you know, there's been times where I've knocked on her door to go in her room. Who is it? You can't come in. So I know she's been working on them. And she asked to borrow the smallest needles that I had. And have a look there. She's actually done knitting. She's knitted a little bit and then made little knitting needles, then wound yarn around. It's so awesome. Not to mention just how amazing are the actual dragons themselves. She's just got such a talent with this clay work. She's been doing really, really well. Love the sparkles on this one's wings. And even more cute, because she knows Yarn Denise does knitting, she said this one is Yarn Denise and this one is me. So exciting. So touched, so beautiful. And she said, oh, you should name one of them Skein. She's been learning the lingo. So this one is Skein, and I've decided to call this one Cake, like a, skein and cake of yarn. Very cool. It's very cool, actually, in general. The Yarndertein has been coming out with some knitting things. The other day we were driving around and there were these sort of tall, they're not pine trees, whatever they were, but they were in different shades of green. I said, oh, I really like how that looks. And she goes, yeah, they look like the knitting stitches. She goes, whew, you've brainwashed me now. I'm like, nice. And then, yes, when she came out with Skein as a name. So, yes, very, very, very excited about my Mother's Day presents. So because I have had so much time off work being sick, podcasts have been my saviour because, as I said, some days I couldn't even knit, so I was just sort of sitting there staring, and it was nice to have something to stare at or to listen to. But a few podcasts I wanted to mention. As I said earlier, A Wee Bit Knitty has returned, and another returning podcast, a shorter break, but it's still wonderful to have them back, is Pink Hair Girl Knits and Daughter. The title has now changed a little bit, so that's Sally Jane and Rachel, who were in South Africa but have just moved to England, so that was the cause of their delay while they didn't have Wi-Fi. So check them out, it's very exciting to have them back. I've also recently discovered the Tea and Possibilities podcast, who's Nikki in London. I say I've recently discovered, she's not a new podcast, but isn't it amazing how there's so many podcasts and, I guess we can't hear about all of them all at once. So I definitely recommend checking that one out as well, because I've been having a lot of fun. I've actually been watching, I think there's about 25 episodes, so I've been working my way through the back catalogue, which has been exciting. And a non-knitting podcast I've been listening to is Lore, L-O-R-E, and I heard about this one from Katie on Inside Number 23. So this one, if you're not familiar with it, it looks at real-life scary stories, so looks at folklore and just stories of weird things that have happened or tragedies and that sort of thing. So sort of from a horror perspective, which is not necessarily my thing as such, but I'm really liking it. I'm finding it's really well produced, really well delivered. There's, eerie music and the stories are very interesting. However, I have been freaking myself out a bit with it. So there was one, and I don't want to say anything scary, but needless to say, I have this giant, I can't even see my hands, giant Astro Boy doll. You know Astro Boy? I love Astro Boy. That Damien got me early in our courtship. And because of one of the podcasts talking about this doll, I've actually had to hide him because, when I get up in the morning at 5 a.m, especially now, it's very dark. So Damien's still in bed. He doesn't get up for another few hours after me, so I can't turn the lights on. So I use my iPhone light. So it's ridiculous. But, I'm walking with my iPhone light and I see my Astro doll sitting there. I'm like, he's got to go. So yes, I'm enjoying it very much, but I need to pick when I listen to it. So the other night, both Damien and Sophie were out, and so I had the house to myself for most of the night. There was a thunderstorm. I'm home alone. It's dark. I'm like, I don't think this is the time to be listening to the scary podcast. So yes, definitely pick your moments. But I very much enjoy it, and they're very interesting stories. And there's actually been a couple of times I've got a chill because, as I said, he delivers very well. So at the end of the podcast, he'll be telling a little wrap-up story, and then he'll go, blah, da, 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 da. And it's no surprise because she'd been dead for 10 years, things like that, where it's just like, bang, you're like, ooh. So yes, good fun. Now, on a similar vein, talking about eerie music and being scared and having to pick your moments, I mentioned in the last episode that I had been listening to the audiobooks of Arisen, which was a zombie apocalypse story. I realised I forgot to tell you a couple of things because at that part of the podcast last time, which was part B of episode 60, YarnderWoman was getting a little bit tired and she was ready to move on because we'd recorded part A and said goodbye. She didn't really get why we were still talking to the camera. So by that point I was a bit rushed because she wanted to go out for breakfast. So the point I forgot to make was when I first started the audiobook, I was listening to it as I was leaving the house for my morning commute. So I leave the house about 6 and it's very dark at that time of the morning now. So, which is fine. It's, short walk to the bus stop, all good. But, I'm about to open the door. This scary, eerie music has just started at the beginning of the audiobook. Like there's just a little bit of music before the story starts. So this scary music starts. I've opened the door to pitch black going, okay. And the book goes straight into a zombie encounter. And it's in the book was someone's walking along and they're seeing zombies. So I've got this scary music. It's pitch black. I'm walking along going, I don't know that this was such a good idea. I cannot say it was not atmospheric. It definitely was. Also, last time I mentioned with the Arisen series that I wasn't sure if I was going to continue because I didn't know that I wanted to pay $15 for short books. I actually had a look. They're not that short, so they're full-sized. Full-sized? What's a full-sized book? You know what I mean? A normal lengthed book. So I may indeed go back to that series, but we'll see. At the moment, I've got to scare myself with the law podcast instead. Another book I started listening to on audiobook was My Beautiful Friend by Elena, and I've gone blank on her surname, I'm sorry, but I will link it. This was the book that we were going to be reading for my book club. And I say I started reading it, I couldn't finish it. I looked up reviews of the book because the woman in the book club who'd chosen it, it is one of her favourite books. She was so passionate about it. So as I was listening to it, I was just going, I'm not seeing what she likes. It wasn't that it was bad. It just was, I didn't care for it. The two young girls in it, so I believe there's a 3-part book series. And I think it looks at different parts of their lives, different ages. So this one's looking, I think they're about 10 or 11 to 14, something like that. But the two girls are just complete frenemies, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're doing horrible things to each other. And I'm just like, So I looked up some reviews online to see, is it just me? Because there's a lot of hype for this book. People, and it seems, looking at the reviews, you either love it and think the hype is just completely warranted, or as I seem to have had the experience of, you just go, I don't see it. So yeah, I didn't finish reading it. And then as it turned out, I was sick and couldn't go to the book club meeting anyway, so I couldn't even participate in the discussion to try and get some ideas of what people liked about it. But either or, I will still link it, see what you think. It's set in Italy in the 50s, I think. So it was very interesting. It was very, described the scenes, you could picture the time and all that, but yeah, I just didn't see it, unfortunately. Another thing I've been taking up a lot of time with over the last 2 or 3 days is the Duolingo app. So that's a language learning app, and they've just added Japanese, which is very exciting. I am conversationally fluent in Japanese. I can read the two easiest scripts, hiragana and katakana. I can read a little bit of kanji, which is the really complex script that's like Chinese language, but not much. But I really wanted to refresh my language skills before we go away. So this is excellent because you can choose on the app as either, total beginner or as experience. And then you can test out where, you can take a little test and it will see what your level is and then, take you to the next steps from there. So really enjoying that. It's really good to get the brain working again because, as I said, I remember a lot of things, and my sister-in-law is Japanese, so we'll occasionally converse in Japanese, very basic, and same with my niece and nephew. They're both fluent, so I've had little bits here and there where I can keep up, but it's really nice, and it's bringing up things where I go, oh, that's right, I knew that, but I'd forgotten it, so I'm really enjoying that. That's on the iPhone. It doesn't look like the Android version of the app has Japanese yet, so I hope that's coming soon because Sophie would like to learn some before we go away. So fingers crossed, and I'll let you know if I find out that it comes up on the Android one, but I'll put a link to the iPhone. A couple of knitting events coming up that I want to participate in, or knitting/craft. So next week in Perth is the Australian Quilting and Craft Show, so I'm hoping to go to that. That's sort of like in a big convention centre, and there's all different stalls. Given quilting is in the title of the event, it's mostly quilting and that sort of thing. Last time I went, which was a couple of years ago, they did have a couple of yarn stalls, but there was nothing really that grabbed me other than the, I think it was called Haku yarn. It's the one that's got the stainless steel in it. I'm hoping they might be there again because I don't think I bought enough to make the pattern that the yarn is mostly developed for, but anyway, I will have a look at that. So I'm going to go to that with YarnderWoman and my auntie. There's also a big fibre festival coming up in Toodyay, which is a country town east of Perth. I don't think that's... Oh, it is actually east. I'm actually pointing in the right direction. Huh, who knew? Anyway, that doesn't matter. So YarnderWoman and I went there a couple of years ago. You may have seen our episode where we had some footage. So you catch a train in and the train only goes in once a day. So that's the only thing, is that last time I was like ready to go home a couple of hours before the train came. So that's okay. You take your knitting, have a nap on the side of the road. We'll see how we go. So that's coming up. And then Worldwide Knit in Public Day is on the 10th of June. And I'm really interested in meeting up with anyone in Perth that's available. So I'm looking at where we might be able to do that. Possibly Leaderville, because there's a cafe there that's really quite big and there's lots of couches, so it would be easy to accommodate people without having to make a booking. So keep an eye on a Ravelry thread. I will put a special thread up for Perth Worldwide Knit and Public Day meetup, also on Instagram as well. So if you're interested, comment in the thread on Ravelry or down below in the video and let me know, and then I'll organise something and we'll get together. So that's a Saturday, the 10th of June. So it'll probably be maybe, mid-morning to mid-afternoon or however long people want to be there. So we'll see how we go. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I know you've got a lot to do in your day and there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of other stuff to do. So I really appreciate you spending time with me. It's been lovely to see you and chat with you. I'm going to have another cup of tea now. Then I am going to head off to work. I have the car today, so I don't have to worry about zombies and folklore demons being out in my commute walk. So that's great. Have a lovely day. Enjoy whatever you are doing. I hope there's something yummy in the fridge for you when you get home. And happy crafting. Bye bye.